Acquisitions are crucible moments for any organization, regardless of size, industry, or location. An acquisition is the largest challenge most leaders will face. An acquisition is a time of great opportunity and great risk for organizations. According to collated research and a recent Harvard Business Review, the failure rate of mergers and acquisition sits between 70% and 90%. Ouch. What if we could stack the odds in our favor? What if we could decode the drivers, dynamics, and dispositions of acquisitions? What if we could change the statistic and increase the success rate of acquisitions? This video is the first in a 4-part series on leading through an acquisition. In this video, we'll go through the anatomy of an acquisition. The objective of this video is to demystify the acquisition process. This will provide a foundation for leaders to set their organizations up for success during an acquisition. Let's go. Let's get started. Drivers of an acquisition. We will start with drivers. Why does anyone go through the pain of an acquisition? With a 70 to 90% failure rate, why do people and organizations persist with acquisitions? Here are 6 of the most common acquisition drivers I have seen. Drivers: increased value. Business leaders crunch the numbers and deduce that the combination of 2 organizations will result in a valuation that is greater than the sum of their valuations independently. Increased revenue. 2 organizations combined could provide revenue synergy through cross-selling. Company A plans to sell its services to the existing customers of Company B, and Company B plans to do the same. Company B sells its services to the existing customers of Company A. Respond to competition. In a competitive marketplace, businesses need to rapidly adapt to competitors. One strategy employed typically by larger players is to buy out smaller players or even buy out their main competitor. Cost reduction. Business leaders could crunch the numbers and deduce that combining Company A with Company B will reduce expenses. This could be through sharing IT infrastructure, combining shared services like office space, HR, and legal. Business or career exit. This is a seller-based driver. The founder or founding team of an organization may be looking to retire or pursue new interests. The passion and energy to keep their current roles may have gone. The seller may have a product or service that has not translated into a viable business. The next logical step for them will be to look for an exit from the business. Investment exits. The investors in a business may be looking to cash in their investment. The typical route will be to sell the business to another business or another group of investors through an acquisition. There are many specific reasons why individuals and organizations go ahead with acquisitions. A simple way I find to classify these drivers are into gain-oriented motivations and loss-aversion motivations. With gain-oriented motivations, we're looking to gain value, gain revenue, gain market share, gain profitability, or even gain retirement. With loss-aversion motivations, we're looking to avoid competitive threats, loss in profitability, loss of investment. We'll come back to these 2 classes of motivations in later videos. How does scale affect an acquisition? The size of your organization will determine the mechanics of how an acquisition will work out. The purpose, principles, and phases of an acquisition are the same, regardless of organization size. However, the specifics of what gets done and who does what will vary according to the size of your organization. An example is in how sellers find buyers for their organizations. At the smaller micro scale, business brokers will source potential buyers for the business. At the large scale, investment banks will play this role. Investment banks source potential buyers for large-scale businesses. What are the types of acquisitions? There are three main types of acquisitions, or more accurately, there are three main types of deal structures for an acquisition. Asset sale. An asset sale is where a business transfers ownership of assets to another business. These assets could be buildings, computers, software, furniture, customer contracts, machinery, or a database of contacts. An asset sale does not include any liabilities the selling business has. Asset sale deal structures are common at the small and micro scale. Equity sale. An equity sale is where a business transfers the shares of the business to another business. This type of deal structure involves the transfer of the entire operation, including all assets, liabilities, as well as the responsibilities of the selling business. Merger. A merger typically happens with large-scale organizations. In this case, two organizations combine, and at the end of the transaction, both organizations disappear and a brand new entity is created. There is a subtype of the merger deal structure known as a joint venture. In this case, a part of company A combines with a part of company B to create a brand new entity. Who are the main players in an acquisition? The buyer. This is the business looking to acquire another business. The buyer organization is typically the driver of the acquisition. The seller. This is the business that the buyer organization is looking to acquire. The seller organization is also referred to as the target organization. Business broker. The business broker is an organization that matches buyers and sellers of businesses. Investment bank. These are large financial service institutions. In an acquisition process, they play the same role as business brokers. They match large business buyers with correspondingly large business sellers. Businesses listed on the stock exchange use investment banks as a broker between buyers and sellers. Corporate financiers. Acquisitions require money. Corporate financiers are organizations that facilitate the raising of money either through debt or equity. Money that facilitates the acquisition. Corporate lawyers. An acquisition is a transaction. Corporate lawyers create the agreements that govern the acquisition transaction. Accountants. Accountants support the acquisition process with financial projections, financial models, and due diligence. Tax advisors. Tax considerations are important in an acquisition. Tax advisors support buyers and sellers in optimizing their tax liability. Consultants. Consultants are individuals and organizations that provide expertise and advice. They could be domain-centered consultants, acquisition process consultants, or consultants supporting the implementation and integration of the businesses. Staff. The staff are the individuals working in the buyer and seller organizations. What are the phases or stages of an acquisition? Exploration phase. The exploration phase is when the buyer decides to acquire a target business and does the necessary research and negotiations with potential sellers or intermediaries for the seller. The exploration phase can also be triggered by the seller looking for a buyer. Heads of terms. The heads of terms phase is when the buyer and the seller organization sign non-binding documents outlining the main terms of the tentative acquisition. At the heads of terms phase, the buyer and seller have come to an agreement in principle. Due diligence. The due diligence phase is when the buyer and seller conduct relevant research and checks into each other's organization. These are checks to validate business model, financial status, assets, and liabilities. transaction close. The transaction close phase is when the buyer and seller sign a legally binding agreement to implement the acquisition transaction. At transaction close, the deal is done. Integration. The integration phase takes place after transaction close. This is when the new post-acquisition business transforms itself to gain the planned benefits of the acquisition. There you have it, an introduction to the acquisition process covering acquisition drivers, deal structures, key players in an acquisition, and the phases of an acquisition. Do you want to know more about a specific area covered in this video? Please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Also, if you are an expert in the business acquisition process and think I have missed something from this overview, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. If this video was of value to you, please like and subscribe. For the next video in this series, we'll look at the buyer's perspective of what happens during an acquisition. Thank you for watching and see you in another video.
Are you ready to take change leadership to the next level? Register for our online course, Leading Complex Change. The Leading Complex Change course provides leaders with the insight needed to get things done in a rapidly changing and complex world.